Let's start on our belly tonight in yin yoga, and we'll start with crocodile pose, resting the head on stacked hands. Heel toe the feet outwards until they become Charlie Chaplin feet. And you start to feel a gentle stretch through the hip flexors, front of the body. And try to bring the elbows up a little bit until you feel the shoulders sink down and relax. Use this position with the belly and chest against the ground to notice your breathing right now. Notice the diaphragmatic breath. Belly expands as you breathe in. And as you exhale, as you release, invite the back of the body to soften. And notice with each exhale, as you invite the body to soften, that there seems to be a little more that can soften with each exhale. And assume that each exhale takes you closer to complete relaxation, but you never quite arrive. There'll always be a tad, while we're alive in this human body, there'll always be a tad of tension. But your goal in yin is to get as close to full relaxation as you can. And then begin to slow the breath down. And even though you cannot quite do this, start to feel like you're endeavoring to make the cat and cow motion. So as you exhale, press the hip flexors into the mat. And as you exhale, relax the hips. Exhale, squeeze the navel back towards the spine, push the hip flexors into the mat. Inhale, relax. The next time you inhale, bend the knees and bring the feet together. And continue that cat and cow action for a few breaths. On the next inhale, bring the elbows underneath the shoulders close enough that you can grab the upper arms. Bring a block under the head, and then slowly lower the feet down. lower the hands down, relax the shoulders. And tune into your own body. If the back is okay with Sphinx, you can remain here. Or you can come up to the next level and bring the hands out to the side of the mat. And carefully extend the arms. Extend the arms. And feel that in the hip flexors. Feel seal pose. At any time this becomes too much, consider coming back to Sphinx or all the way down to crocodile. Otherwise, hang out here. Let this pose, this seal pose, soak in. Soak into the thighs, soak into the hip flexors, soak into the belly. Holding the pressure like this starts to lubricate, hydrate the fascia in the front of the body. And hydrating the fascia in the front of the body will allow us to have a little more opening in the back of the body as we progress through our practice. Carefully lift the feet up behind you, feet touching. And if this is helpful, stay here, otherwise drop the feet. And every now and then just notice if you can contract the hamstring a little more and bring the feet closer to the back. Exhale, gently release, drop the elbows, bring the head back down onto the hands, walk the knees closer together and relax it into crocodile pose with feet together. Take a deeper breath in, and as you exhale, release. Bring the hands under the shoulders and press up onto all fours. Become nice and steady on all fours. Lift the gaze, feel the low back, and then gently round the back. Come into your angry cat pose. Feel the stretch in the low back. Hold angry cat. Tuck the hips a little more in underneath you, so you're rounding a little more, starting to stretch out the low back. And then bring the knees wide, feet together, and sink back into child pose. It's important to support the head in child pose. You can do it with stacked fists, stacked hands, or simply resting the head on the mat. Bring the hands in about 50% towards the head so they're not stretched out. Arms are relaxed. Let the low back unravel. So much tension in this low back area. Make sure the thighs are wide enough that the belly can nestle down between the thighs. If this is too much on the ankle joint or the foot, consider having a rolled towel under the ankle to take a little bit of pressure off the foot and still have the range of motion. If you're feeling tight at the back of the knees, come up and put that rolled towel behind the knee joints and then sink back over the towel between the knees. If the head does not reach the mat, consider bringing a block under the head or a blanket and then bringing the hands back to hold onto the heel bones. Coming into embryo pose. Gently turn the head to the left, resting the side of the head on your blanket or your block or the mat. Make sure the head is supported and held. The higher up the head, the more turn you get. And this might change from side to side. Just noticing the rotation in the neck as you hold this back, stretching this back gently. Inhale, lift the head and change sides. Three more breaths here. And then bring the head to neutral. This is a little challenging. Grab hold of the heels, keep holding the heels, but start to lift your body up. Keep the head down, and maybe the top of the head brushes against the mat. Rounding the back a little more deeply, adding a little more stretch sensation to the low back. For 3, 2, 1. Come all the way back onto your belly. Straighten out those legs. And bring your left knee out onto the side of the mat. Left ankle, the femur approximately 90 degrees to the pelvis, knee bent 90 degrees, ankle bent 90 degrees. And if you have a hard floor, you can bring a towel or a blanket underneath the knee if that feels more comfortable. Explore bringing the hands out to the side into goalpost arms. Head rotated towards the left, towards the bent knee side of the body. And start to feel once again the hip flexor on the right side. Feel the breath. And feel the left hip, that rotation outwards. At any time this gets too much for the neck, you can stack your hands under the forehead. And then explore what would it be like to bring one or two hands back behind you, resting on your low back. Bringing the arms back, the key word is, can the shoulders relax? If bringing the hands back tenses the body, make some kind of adjustment until you find a position where the body can relax. So we don't want to add tension into this pose. We want the weight of the hands, the weight of the arms on the low back, helping soothe the low back. At the same time, the shoulders having this position can benefit through relaxation, not tension. There's also more intensity on the neck. Letting the breath slow down. So you'll hear me offer or invite you to slow down the breath over and over and over again. And there's a reason that I do that. By slowing your breath down, you're sending a message to the brain that you're safe. And the brain, in its infinite wisdom, will communicate via the nervous system to the body that it can relax even more. And this is an experiment you can do in different situations. The first time I ever explored this was when I was a surfer in Australia, and it was a cold day on the beach. I'd come out of the water and I was very tense, I was cold, I was hugging myself, shivering. And there was someone there who just said to me, just relax the body and notice what happens. And when I did, I started to feel warmer. So a lot happens when we can relax the body and override that autonomic reaction. When we're cold, when we're tense. And using the breath is the most efficient way to do that. Inhale, release the hands, stacking the hands under the forehead, and tuck your chin in towards the chest so there's a little stretch in the back of the neck here. Bring the elbows up so the shoulders relax, hands under the head, and gently rock from temple to temple until your neck feels released, and then pause. Release the left knee. And over the next few breaths, simply notice the contrast between your left hip, your left groin area, and the right. Change sides, bringing this time the right knee out onto the blanket. Come into crime scene on this side. Head rotated towards the bent knee. Notice any contrast between the hips on this side versus the old side. Make any minor adjustments so that you feel supported and comfortable. Remembering that the efficiency of this pose comes through relaxation rather than forcing it. Avoid the pain-free range. Of motion. And that was a double negative. Well, I'll have to change that. Stay in the pain-free range of motion. Oops. See, I'm so relaxed I can't even think straight. And then whenever you feel to, you can bring the hands or hand behind your low back and relax the shoulders. Notice the major sensations on this side. Can sensation invite you to relax into it, to go against the automatic tensing? It's like finding a calm on the other side of the tension. When we contract and tense our muscles in response, we pull away from the deeper pose. And then if we relax into it without going into pain, we can sometimes find ourselves on the other side, where a whole new world of relaxation and lubrication of the joint starts to occur. The WD-40 kicks in. And then using your breath, simply by slowing it down. That's all you do, slow it down, breathing in through the nose. Slow it down. can slow particularly the exhale, the longer you can make the exhale. You'll feel the hint of how much more you can relax. Go with that hint. Inhale, gently release the hands. Stack the hands and rest the forehead with the chin tucked and elbows lifted. And gently roll from temple to temple. Release the right knee. Bring it back to the mat. Inhale, bring the hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Lift the gaze. Lift the tailbone. Sacred cow. And then drop the gaze, drop the chin, round the back, tuck the tailbone, hold angry cat. Come to neutral, grab your blocks and bring your blocks to the top of the mat. So come into tabletop with your hands on the blocks this time, knees under the hips. If your knees need a little more padding, consider bringing a towel or a blanket under the knees. Bring your left foot forward. And start to walk your right foot back, bringing the knee back an inch or two, and then drop the toenails down onto your mat. So if you look at me, you can see that the right leg is angled back obliquely from the hips rather than perpendicular. So I'm coming into the right hip flexor. And I can control the intensity very easily by pushing the hips back. That takes pressure off the hip flexor. So you can be fully controlling how much intensity feels right for your back hip flexor there. If it's sensitive, push the hips back a little bit. If it's fine. The more you come forward, the more you feel this in the hip flexors. If you come forward far enough, you may even be able to rest your lower arms on the blocks. If that feels appropriate. And you can always come up if it's too much. Try to find the place where you can remain constantly with enough sensation to stimulate without pain. But if you find yourself over time getting too uncomfortable, adjust. Consider in this last number of breaths rotating the toes to the left. The left foot rotates outwards so that the front thigh rotates outwards. Finding a slightly different sensation in the front groin area, front thigh. You can always bring the hands completely down to the floor if you like. Gently bring the left hand underneath your shoulder, right hand, and float that left knee back into tabletop. Lift the gaze. Lift the gaze. Feel sacred cow. And then round into angry cat. Hold angry cat. Feel the low back and the neck. Change sides. Inhale, right foot forward. Come to your blocks. Take a moment to adjust your back knee to the point that it's giving you the appropriate stretch sensation. And always be open to discovering the asymmetrical nature of your hips. One side might be tighter than the other. And when I can, I like to time each side with my timer so that each side gets an equal blast. Because sometimes it's tempting to do one side a little differently from the other. And rob yourself of the pleasure of working towards symmetry. Elbows can come down if you like. Relaxing the head and neck, shoulders. Once again, you could consider rotating, this time the right foot, pivoting the right foot outwards towards the edge of the mat. Once again, staying in the pain-free range of motion. And then explore, experiment over and over again with the breath. I harp on and on and on about the breath. Because the breath has magical powers, supernatural powers. Two more breaths. And then gently walk your hands back, knees back, lift the gaze, sacred cow. Oh, feel the low back here. Neck. Round the back, hold angry cat. And then come onto your sit bones. Let's take the blanket. We'll do our little burrito roll. So you have your burrito, and we all know that that's to sit on the edge of the burrito. If you have a strap handy, that would be great. A belt, a towel, t-shirt, anything that you can wrap around your foot and hold. And then come onto your burrito. Let's start the test here. Straddle the legs and then wiggle your way to the front of the burrito until you feel the most comfortable position you can. So the most comfortable position will have your pelvis tilted slightly forward, so your spine will kind of be slightly angled forward. If you have cranky knees or tight hamstrings, consider bringing a little towel or cushion underneath the back of the knees. Take some pressure off those. Toes curled back towards the shin. And bend the right knee. Bring the right foot towards that left extended leg. And we'll strap out the foot. I like to use my right hand and just lift the lower ribs up. So I kind of lifting myself out of the hips. And as I do, move the fleshy part of the belly to the center and come forward over towards that left extended leg. And I'm not doing it to the point where I'm tensing the shoulders or neck. So I want this upper body, the arms are quite relaxed. So you can see my arms are kind of holding the reins lightly. And then start to walk your hands down towards the feet. As soon as the shoulders tense up, the arms tense up, and the head wants to bend, that's where you stop. So you want to keep the chin away from the chest, and you want to have that forward hinge. Not worried about anybody else's incline, just your own. Over time, as the hamstring starts to loosen, try bringing the toes back a little more. So the position of your foot changes the degree of intensity. Toes curled back. Now in this last minute, consider bringing the forehead down towards the knee. So there's going to be a rounding in the back here. And as you do, bring your right hand closer down to the strap, down to the foot. So you're extending towards the foot as you round the back. Dropping the forehead. Once again, there's a lot of new sensations here. And if the body starts to retract and recoil, tense up, back off a little bit and find a position where you can tolerate. Slow the breath down and consider going deeper into the pose through relaxation, not grimacing. And then slowly holding the strap, let yourself come back up. And we're going to do one of my least favorite poses. It's a very humbling pose. It always reminds me how inflexible I am. But take your right hand, hold the strap. The left hand is going to cross over and grab your knee joint. So you're crossing over the body. Do the best you can here. If for some reason that left hand doesn't reach your knee, you could bring it up closer to the hips. And then very sneakily start to walk your right hand down the strap closer to the foot. So you're kind of starting to feel that stretch sensation without letting the left knee go. And you'll feel different muscles here. Maybe the TFL of the body starts to feel a stretch here. Slowing the breath down. Now notice what happens if you take a deeper breath in. You'll feel that stretch a little more. Right down on the right lower back area. Now keep holding the left knee for a bit. Bring your hand back up a bit. And try to bring the right elbow up and over the head into half moon pose. And then sneakily walk your hands down the strap. Looking up under the armpit. Hello. And lift the corners of the mouth here. And gently release. Ooh. The good thing about that pose is tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning you'll say, gee, something feels different. What is that? All right, let's come out slowly. Extend the right leg and bend the left knee. And find yourself back on the edge of the burrito so you feel already that the spine is starting to hinge forward without any effort, just from the way you're sitting. Right toes out, lifted, curled back. Timer on. strap around the foot. Left hand kind of finds that low rib, lifts up the belly, pushes it to the center, and then hinge forward. Arms, neck, shoulders, face relaxed. Work more on the foot here, curling the toes back, heel driving out so you feel this in the back of the leg more. And of course, when we talk about the low back, the calf muscle and the hamstring are intrinsically linked to the low back. And then become very patient, very compassionate towards yourself, not worried about your incline. Never ever using somebody else's incline as a comparison. Your body has its own history, its own genetics, its own issues in the tissues. So if you can be with that, you're doing your yoga. I was shocked one day to see a friend of mine from Australia had entered an international yoga contest. And I was shocked to see that yoga had a competitive aspect to it. She was very good, but still. Yoga is such a subjective experience, really. And as you relax, the hands might creep a little closer to the foot, and you might consider dropping the head down towards the knee, reaching that right arm, right hand closer to the toes. Left arm, I should say. So deep low back work here. This is very deep stuff. And slowly drag your hands back up the mat, up the strap, coming up. And take the right hand. So the left hand holds both ends of the strap. Right hand finds that left knee. So you start to feel that crossover. And then your left hand starts to sneak down the strap. So this is a wonderful way to slowly find your range of motion here. Great for the shoulder releases. And keep walking down till you feel that interesting muscle in the low left back. You'll start to feel that at some point. I think it's called the, I'm not sure, it might be. I'm not sure it's a tensor fascia. No, I don't think it's quite that. Anyway, it's something. It's down there. You can feel it. You don't have to name it. It's going to be good for you to give it a little stretch. Now slide back up. Keep the right hand on the knee. So you've got plenty of strap here. Enough strap that you can start to lift the left elbow up, 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 up over the head. So you start to feel like you're coming into that half moon pose. Now we get into, I think this is the tensor fasciae latae, TFL muscle. Oh yeah, different muscle. So it's moved around more to the left side of the body than the low back, but it's all down there. And then you can sneakily walk your hand down the strap, finding your range of motion here. The right foot curling the toes back is the least of your issues right now. The least. There's so much sensation in that left side of the low back, left side of the hip. And I've seen people do some very unusual contortions here. And then gently release. Come back up slowly, slowly, slowly. Ooh. Some deep work there. Let's come into seated, easy seated pose. So bring your non-habitual leg back first. Heel roughly to the center of the body. And then the other heel comes to your back leg's ankle. Now, if the knees are up in the air, I'm going to recommend you take a block and just prop the knees up at the height. You might be using a towel or a blanket. It doesn't have to be a block, but you feel supported with those thighs are open like this. Adjust your burrito if you need to, so you feel the pelvis tilt forward and a steadiness between the sit bones. And imagine that you're a volcano. So the volcano has a central axis where all the lava comes up. And a volcano is deeply rooted into the earth. It's a mountain. So as you inhale, feel your sit bones drill down into the mantle of the earth. So you feel very grounded. Drill down until you feel so deeply rooted in the earth you are a mountain, you're immovable. And each time you exhale, feel the central channel of the volcano lift up, like the lava's coming up through the middle axis of the body, lifts the heart up, lifts up through the throat, right up through the roof of the mouth, right out through the top of the head. So there's a sense of lifting up each time you exhale. Hands resting on the thighs, palms up, shoulders back and down. So visualize this incredibly stable, solid mountain, but with an upward welling of liquid molten heat, lifting you up through the central channel, coming out through the top of the head, and then that lava rolls down on the outside of the body, so the skin has a warm massage of this liquid lava rolling down. The skin softens. So you feel this combination of stability
rootedness, groundedness, earthiness, with this lifting sensation, helping the vertebra of the back climb higher and higher. And then this outer skin softening, draping, rolling down the body. Feeling your posture, your seat on the earth. Bring your hands together in prayer position at the chest. Let the head bow in gratitude. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.